Dear students, welcome to the course of VLSA Circuits and Systems. Today's topic, drain to source current versus voltage relation. After completion of this lecture, you will be able to examine the relation between IDS, VDS in non-saturation and saturation mode. Coming to the relation between IDS and VDS, consider the structure shown in the figure, that is NMOS transistor structure, the two enhancement mode, which we have discussed its operation in our previous lecture, where here the dimensions of the device to be taken into consideration are, this is the L known as length of the channel, that is the distance from source to drain under the gate, and whereas the perpendicular lateral direction is considered as width of the channel. So the whole concept of this MOS transistor begins from inducing a charge in the channel between source and drain by applying a voltage on gate. Applying a voltage on gate, depending upon the charge that is going to be induced in the channel, will make the current to flow. Then this charge is made to flow from source to drain under the influence of electric field created between drain and source. That is, between drain and source, what is the potential applied, that is VDS, will make this charge to flow between source and drain. So here this IDS, termed as IDS, is dependent on both the gate voltage that has been applied and also the drain to source voltage that has been applied. Now let us consider a known equation for current, that is I is equal to Q by T, charge per unit time. Relating this to our structure, where here charge represents a charge induced in the channel, and whereas T represents the electron transit time represented as tau, that is transit time here refers to the time taken by the electron to move from the source to drain, where this specifically termed as tau SD, that is from source to drain, is given by length of the channel by velocity, which is known to us as time is distance by speed, that is velocity. But whereas velocity with respect to mobility, there is a relation V is equal to mu into EDS, where mu is the electron or hole mobility, where EDS is the electric field from drain to source. And from our basic electromagnetics, we know that electric field is given by EDS is voltage per unit distance, that is VDS by the distance is channel length. Substituting this one in velocity equation, we get velocity is equal to mu into VDS by L. So substituting this for our transit time, then tau SD will be represented as L square by mu into VDS, where the value of mu typically is given as 650 centimeter square per volt second for electrons and 240 centimeter square per volt second for holes. So in the non-saturated region, we derive the current equation in two regions. One is non-saturated region and other is saturated region. Non-saturated region, also known as linear region. What is meant by this non-saturated or linear region, we have done in our previous topic. Here the charge induced in the channel due to gate voltage is given by Eg into epsilon minus epsilon naught into Wl. So this comes from Q is equal to Cv actually, where C is again represented as A epsilon by D, whereas now V by D is represented as electric field intensity. That is what here A is represented as W into L, that is width into length. Epsilon is given as epsilon ins into epsilon naught, that is epsilon r into epsilon naught, relative permittivity into epsilon naught, and whereas E is given as Eg. Eg is the electric field, epsilon in is the relative permittivity of insulation between gate and channel, that is silicon dioxide between gate and channel. So its typical value is 4, where epsilon naught is permittivity of free space, whose typical value is 8.85 into 10 power minus 14 farad per centimeter. And now for this channel, Eg electric field is generally given as V by D, voltage applied at the channel edges divided by D. But whereas here the voltage applied is because of both gate voltage and also due to drain to source voltage. So effective voltage applied is given by VGS minus VT, that is at the source end. After this difference voltage is taken, the threshold amount of voltage is taken by the channel to be created, minus VDS by 2 is the average of the drain to source voltage throughout the channel divided by D. D here represents the distance of separation between the gate and the channel. Why? Because this electric field is between gate to channel. So D represents this one. Between gate to channel, what is the distance of separation, or otherwise we can call it as oxide thickness. Now the charge induced can be rewritten as WL is WL only, epsilon INS into epsilon naught is epsilon naught into epsilon INS, whereas EG is replaced with VGS minus VT minus VDS by 2 divided by D. Whereas IDS, as we know, is QC by tau SD. Replacing in this equation for QC, we will be getting IDS as epsilon INS epsilon naught mu by D into W by L into VGS minus VT minus VDS by 2 into VGS. Continuing it by substituting epsilon INS epsilon naught mu by D with a K with a constant value, where all these parameters are constants, we can rewrite the current equation. This is all other forms of writing the current equation. So IDS is equal to K into W by L, whereas the remaining portion will be as it is VGS minus VT into VDS minus VDS square by 2. That is in non-saturation region for a condition of VDS less than VGS minus VT. Still we can write it in other form by replacing that K into W by L is again a constant with a beta, where IDS can be written as beta, this K into W by L can be written as beta, followed by the remaining term as it is. Now we can do a little modification to the capacitance value, as we know gate to channel capacitance actually is given as epsilon naught epsilon INS into A by D, where A is WL, and where you can see that if you substitute here in place of K, K can be written as, this K can be written as K is equal to Cg into mu by WL. So in that case, other form of writing IDS is Cg into mu by L square into remaining portion as it is. Or otherwise, this is gate to channel capacitance, but you can convert it into gate capacitance per unit area. So if you want gate capacitance per unit area, you should multiply it with WL. Cg is equal to C naught into WL. That implies C naught is equal to Cg by WL. Substituting this one, another form of writing the current equation is C naught mu into WL into the remaining portion as it is. Whereas in saturation region, we don't have much to discuss directly in saturation region. By substituting VDS is equal to VGS minus VT, all our equations changes to VGS minus VT whole square by 2, and here K into W by L is the previous thing, beta by 2 is the previous thing, Cg mu into 2L square into by 2L square is the previous thing, C naught mu into W by 2L is the previous thing. Only this portion changes as VGS minus VT whole square. That's all for this lecture. Just have a look at the types of questions that can be answered. Thank you. Happy learning.